Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Society of Like-Minded Men. I'm your host, Ramin Kayvon, and this is your other host, Tommy Fourletter. How are you today, sir?
My man, Ramin, how are you, man? I'm doing great.
I'm doing great. I have to say this week has been busy, but in a really good and productive way, so I can't complain. I'm on my wooden head. I'm good. Totally.
Yeah, it seems like it's a recurring thing. We talk about that every week. We're busy, but it's a good busy, and it seems I'm as busy or busier than I've ever been in life, and it used to feel not so long ago very overwhelming, and it's not anymore.
And I think part of that is because you're busy doing stuff you actually want to do now, as opposed to maybe stuff you weren't really, all enthused about doing, which at some level kind of leads us to our question today, which our episode title today, which is, what kind of questions are you asking yourself in your life? Are you asking yourself high quality questions or low quality questions? And what's the difference? Right. So, I mean, there's a marked difference between why am I always overwhelmed, to speak to your point, versus how can I do the things I want to do so that I am enjoying being busy? Right? You will head in two different directions with those questions. The quality of the questions you ask yourself is very clearly important. And it doesn't matter what the notion is, what the situation is. It's, you're spending time with your wife or your spouse. It's, if things are not going the way you want them to, you can say, why can't we just get along? Which, by the way, is a horrible question. Rather than saying, what can we do to fix this, and so that we can have a much better time together in life?
You know what? There's an art to asking the question. It can be asked in a positive connotation or a negative connotation. Just the way that you ask yourself that question can lead you in different directions.
Exactly.
And we were talking about off camera earlier, and we do this. We talk about, hey, what's kind of the important, when we're getting ready to do an episode or a podcast, and kind of brainstorm just a little bit. And I was saying that, as human beings, we're always asking ourselves questions, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, and if you become more intentional and you become more conscious, that's kind of what we're talking about. Then am I asking myself, am I controlling my thoughts, or trying to, getting in touch with my thoughts, and then with that, asking questions. And then with those questions, are you asking a quality question versus just, like you said, why don't I have a girlfriend?
Why don't I have a girlfriend? Why doesn't anybody love me?
Money? Why am I not?
Which is reactive in its whining. At some level, right? I mean, it can be the connotation is that of a whiner. But to your point, I think the point you made is very, very valid. It's once you become intentional and conscious about what you're doing with regard to questions you ask yourself about the situations in your life and where you're trying to go and what you're trying to accomplish. A conscious mind can very rarely be reactive, because then you start to ask yourself questions that get you to take proactive steps towards fixing the problem or getting to where you want to go or to acquiring the thing you want to acquire. It's all about, you can either be like, the way I look at it is like a pinball in a pinball machine, hitting all the bumpers, bing, 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 bing. That's somebody who's always going, why is this happening in my life? Why is that happening in my life? That's
squirrel. I used to talk about squirrel. People are squirrels, and I used to be for a long period of my life. I was a squirrel, and now when I talked earlier, that connotation of I'm conscious now, and I'm asking the question. So in reality, this is the same question.
It is.
Why do I not have money versus how can I make more money? So you see, that's really the same question, but it's in the context of how you're asking yourself that question and where it's driving you, and it's where it's driving your thoughts and your patterns and all of that, and just those 2 simple ways that you ask yourself a question.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
The absolutely it makes sense. And the other side of that that's very interesting is the human mind is a fascinating machine.
Mhm.
It is built to answer questions and come up with answers to the questions you ask, right? So if you say, why am I not making any money? Why am I always broke?" The brain instantly starts to go, "Well, it's because you're fill in the blank," right? Right?
Negative
Because
thoughts and
your
yeah.
brain wants to answer questions. And so you can either give it shit questions, pardon my French, shit questions to answer, or you can give it really good questions to answer, like, how do I make more money? How do I become part of an investment group that can then generate revenues for me and, dividends over the next 20, 30 years so that I can retire at a decent age? Those are different questions. And either way, your brain is going to come up with an answer. So the question is, which answer do you want?
Well, and it's a lot about manifestation, and you can do studies in this, and I read a book, and the book's called The Secret. I don't know if you've read it.
I have,
Um,
yes.
yeah, it's been a while since I did, but there's some, and some of it gets a little far out there, but there's a lot of where it talks about that is the neurons in the past in your brain that when you're asking yourself that negative form versus that positive
Right?
form, your brain and your mind is wanting to go that direction. So what we're talking about today is are you asking yourself a quality question? So I think
Well,
first in that, you
absolutely.
need to make sure that you're putting it in a positive context to yourself,
Yes.
you know?
To your yeah, you have well, it's between you and your brain on
Mhm.
any given day, regardless of what's going on, and it really doesn't matter what it is. A great example is, once you're conscious about this, you feel embarrassed when you become reactive. I was driving yesterday, and I pulled out onto a street, and some guy comes rushing up behind me, and he's like flipping me off and honking his horn. I was nowhere near him, but
Not in California, no
he
way.
decided that I was obviously an affront to his entire lineage as a human being. And so he went driving past me, and that just my instant reaction was "Ah, rah, rah, rah." And then about 5 minutes later, I'm like, "Why did you react that way?"
Right?
Right? It's the initial thing is why am I being treated this way? Right? That's the
Yeah,
initial.
well, that
But I don't
yeah.
deserve this. Why am I being treated? And then after that, it's like, okay, well, the reality is he's just living in his own little world,
Isn't
and
it and
it
isn't it
really has
wild
nothing
and
to do with you.
yeah, we've talked about it, but even now when we talk a lot about the positive thoughts and the good habits and all that, but still your brain and your mind so much because of all the habits and how you were raised and taught,
You
and you've
bet.
talked about this when you were a small child, that everything leads you towards that negative path, and if you don't pay
Yes,
attention to it and you're not focused on it,
you bet.
you can get stuck in there, and the people that are more than often negative and don't have a lot you know those people, right? You know
Yeah,
the
no,
people, and
and
you don't
you
surround yourself with those people much, and I don't have time,
I
and I don't
actively
have a lot
avoid
of
people like
tolerance
that.
for it.
I'm going to be honest with you. I actively avoid people like that
Well, and you've talked about that,
because
and
it's a waste of energy.
I'm trying to get to that point to actively do that, and sometimes it's hard to do because it's some friends that I've had, and some of it's family members and things, but when you see that negative vibe and that negative persona and that
Right?
victim mentality, those people, don't have a lot of really good things going on in their life.
Because they've
Do you know what I
chosen
mean?
not to.
Well, yeah, and
This
it's
is
a
the piece they're
conscious
not aware
choice.
of. They're not aware of the fact that they have actively chosen
That's
to
right.
have a crap life
They
by
don't even
being
most of those people
they're
don't
not even
even
aware of
realize it.
it, and that's the
They
sad
don't
part.
even
It's
know it.
yeah, they don't even know it, and it's and I you you're a much nicer person than that. I
I
am. I
well, I
think
am, and maybe
because my friend
your age,
when
because you're
when my
farther along in the journey of,
maybe
we
that's
talk,
what
I
it is.
just don't care.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, what are you going to be mad at me? It's okay. But and I will sometimes confront even my closest friends who behave that way. I'll take them aside and go, "You're being a dick. You are living the life you lead because of the choices you have made.
Right?
You want to fix it? Do something different."
And if you keep doing this, nothing's ever gonna
Yeah,
change
nothing's
for
ever
you.
going to
It's
change.
gonna be the
And
same thing, and
and
you're
my
gonna
my
see me in a
approach is
year, 5 years, same
exactly.
place.
My approach is simply this: I'm going to give you this path. If you choose not to step on it, that's on you at that point, right? I don't need to hang out, and it's the reality is that all of us have a limited amount of energy on any given day, whether it's emotional, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, energy on any given day, and people like that will come to you and try and pull energy from you
Yeah, they
to
can be
try
an
and fill in the holes in their world, and
they can be
that's
an
not
energy
your
suck.
job. It, that's
When
not
we
your
talk
job.
about this, we're I don't want people to get it wrong. We're coming from a place of all high and mighty, and we got it all figured out, because we sure as hell don't. You know what I mean?
No,
And that's
but
why
it's
we
we have
talk about it. But what we have gone through is, obviously, check out
yeah,
the hair color and things. There's
yeah,
some
exactly, and
time frame and
it's
experience there
we have the bumps and bruises we have gone
to
through.
pass it
I
on, and say to someone now, when they
yeah,
ask me a question, I you know what I mean? I sit
yep,
down, and it's a lot of it is with love and kindness, and I
yes,
wanna help you, but I also don't have, so I am maybe a little bit nicer, I don't know if that's the word, but
you
I
are a
have
little bit nicer, but
a little
it's
more patience, but I don't
yes,
have as much
you
as
don't.
I used to, because that patience that you have for those type of people, and it's the continual,
Yes,
constant, same thing over and over and
over and over
over, and
again.
like,
If
we just
it's a
talked
real
about
simple
this,
formula.
and it
Life is, as I've determined through all of the stupid mistakes I have made, very simple. The question you need to ask yourself is, what do I want? Really, really, really want? Hate to sound like a song, but what do you, what
well,
do you want? What do you really, really want? And you need to go after that. You need to decide, how do I get there? How do I get that thing that I want? And it doesn't really matter what it is. If it's, a better job, a job that fulfills you, a romantic relationship that makes you want to wake up every day and be with that person. I don't really care what it is, but you have to be the architect. I say this a lot to a lot of my friends. I'm like, you have to be the architect of your joy and not the architect of your own misery.
yes. You have to control, you have to be the
It's up
keeper
to
of your
you.
own, keeper of your own gate, because nobody else
Yeah.
is gonna do it
Nobody
for
else
you,
is
and
going to
you
do
can
it for
search and
you.
you can seek and hope somebody does it for you,
Right.
but we've talked, and you'll find out in this podcast, and it's why we started it, a lot of what
Yeah.
we talk about, it's the same recurring themes. It's
The themes
different
are
things to
recurring.
life, but
Yes.
it's like-minded men, and we've created this to do this from what we've learned in the groups. It's how we met. We were in search of
Yeah.
like-minded men, but it was a group where you could come together, because we do believe that there's certain roles that the man should play different
Yep.
from the woman in
Yep.
a relationship,
Yep.
in a lot of things,
Absolutely. And in a
and
lot
how
of things, and that's not to say one is better than the other
no,
at all.
no.
In fact, I am of the opinion that the feminine energy is what should be driving our world. We'd be in a better
Mhm.
place if that was the
I
case,
I I agree with that. Mhm. In a
but
lot of ways.
there is a place for an actual masculine energy. But if you are a man and you're coming from an emotional and spiritual place of weakness, because you see yourself as less than, or you see yourself as a victim, you cannot be there for the ones who need you.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
not
that
your
simple.
spouse,
It
your
Yeah.
wife, your children, nobody, and we talk about
You
that.
serve you serve no one, including yourself, which is sad,
Yeah. If you
right?
can't be there for yourself, you can't really be there for anybody else, and people
Correct.
spend their whole lives, and I was there. I mean,
Yep,
we
me
talk about
too.
transparency. I'll admit it.
Yep,
I was hiding, so much of what was inside of me, because I wasn't comfortable with
most
it, or the
men
way I was
do.
raised, or what it was, and then stuff we talk about it, crap happens in your life, and then what do you do when that happens? And thankfully, for whatever reason, I I've always tended to be a positive person my
Mm,
whole life, and a lot of
agree.
crap's happened, but
Yeah, sure.
I'm a lot better place now, like I said, than I was, and I led off with this podcast. I feel like I'm blessed in so many ways, and I'm doing good, even though there's so much going on in my life. You know what I mean? And there's
But
so much I wanna take
it's
on. There's so much I wanna learn.
agreed.
There's so
Yes.
much I wanna do, where not so long ago, you would wake up and be, "No, man,"
You would wake
the
up and there
alarm
was
goes
nothing
off
you
and
wanted to do, and that's the difference,
yeah,
right? So that's me too. I wake up and my whole ethos at this point is I've got all this stuff I wanna do. How do I fit it into a 24-hour day, right? Whereas back before you just before you and I first met, I would wake up and go, "Ugh,
yeah.
I don't wanna do anything." I don't I they
Isn't it
even the
such a
struggle to get a
different
cup of coffee in the
oh
morning
my
was too
god, yeah,
much,
yep,
right? And so what I learned was I could turn my world around, my worldview around by asking myself better questions,
yeah,
right? And as a person that said that once, because none of us lives in a vacuum, right? Nothing we're saying is new. We people have talked about this before, and I watched a YouTube video of Tony Robbins, and he says, what's the quality of the questions you're asking yourself?" And that made me sit back and go, "Huh,
right?
huh." Valid question. What is the quality of the questions I'm asking myself? And I realized that I was basically continuously, daily burying myself in self pity, lack of self worth, you name it, right? By the virtue of the quality of the questions I was asking myself. And as soon as I flipped that script, it doesn't happen instantly, but as soon as I did, my worldview changed.
Mhm.
So the problem was not the world. The
It
problem
was
was me,
me.
right? It was me and my presence in it, right? The quality of my presence in, and this is really what the quality of the questions determined is what is the quality of your presence in your world
Amen. I just believe this, the world can be as miserable or as great as you
as you
wanna
decide.
make it. I
You
mean,
bet.
it really is that simple.
Yeah. And
When
it's
you
and
wake
it
up or when something happens to you, and granted, crap happens,
crap
but
happens.
what do you choose as an individual to do with that? What's your mental state, and how long does
Correct.
it take you to release that crap and or deal with that crap? And a lot of what I used to do is avoidance, and that's
Ooh,
something a
yeah,
little
big
bit
time.
different, but it touch on that, and then
Big
you probably
time.
reckon that I would avoid it and just brush it off, and that's almost more dangerous than dealing with it because then you don't ever get through it, and it doesn't get solved,
And
and
it
that will rear
grows
its ugly head
it
over and
grows
over and
ugly.
over again till you decide that you're gonna deal with the crap, and then in that moment, ask that question, "What am I gonna what can I do with this now?" And then you can go this way
Right.
or that way. And I
Right.
choose now to ask the question, I'm trying to come up with maybe a specific example. I'll think something, but there's
But
just so much. Yeah.
for me, the thing was my avoidance. I had a well developed avoidance technique. And so if there was something I just didn't want to deal with, if there was something came in the mail, I'd just throw it aside. Just wouldn't even look at it.
Mhm.
And the problem is that the problem doesn't go away. It just
No, no.
it now begins to fester
It
over
actually
there,
can get bigger and it can get
and
worse,
in your head it gets bigger.
right?
And what I discovered was when I finally got this, and this is, I think, the turning point for a lot of people is when they say, okay, I've had enough of this bullshit. And they lean into it to solve the problem. The problem almost instantly vanishes all by itself. It was never as big as you thought it was, but until you actually lean into it, it's huge. It's monstrous. It's the
They
size of
take
Mount Everest. Yeah.
they take control instead of
Mhm.
letting it control them. You
Yep.
take control and
Yeah, that's it.
instead of letting it control you. And that can be very, very small, minor things or very big things,
Either
you
way,
know?
they're going to end up monstrous in the back of your head. Doesn't matter what it is,
Yeah,
right?
that avoidance and that's a subject for not but that is a
That's a
very,
yeah,
very
we can have a whole
danger
episode about
dan
that. It
dangerous thing, but
whew,
in that, when you're asking, are you asking the right questions? Make sure that the question is not spinning you around
correct.
avoiding
Well,
whatever it is that you want or you don't want or
yeah.
whatever. I mean,
And
it's
some of
more
us,
at
I
the
think
point, hit it head on, man. Go
yeah,
get
we
it.
have to some of us, I think, develop the avoidance techniques in our lives more as a self-preservation thing. If we grew up in a house that was where there was, mom and dad were always at each other, or we grew up in a family that was contentious, right? It's easy to just you have two choices. You can either fight or flight, as they say.
Your flight.
And if you don't have a choice of either of those, your only other choice is to avoid, just tune out, right? Then that as a child, you do that as a child to protect yourself. But then as you get older, that becomes your norm. You just tune out. You just like, yeah, and then you start, when a bill comes in, you're like, why do I have to put up with this crap, right? You start asking that kind of question because you want to be able to tune out. You want to be able to just say, I don't see it. It doesn't exist. I've never, but that's not the reality of the world we live in. And what I had to teach myself the hard way was quit your damn whining, lean in, get it done, get it off your plate, and move on to the next thing.
And it's so
Oh, it was so hard.
refreshing
It's
when
refreshing,
you
but it was
get it.
so hard that first time. It was just, and then once I got past something really quickly, I was like, wait a minute, that wasn't so hard. And then I started going, okay, what's the next problem? What's the next problem? What's the next problem? And I found very quickly I cleared my plate of all the problems that I was avoiding, and the quality of my life improved dramatically because I was asking myself the question, how can I lean into this and fix this problem?
Let me ask you this, in all your experiences, this is what I found rarely is anything when I've had, quote, "stress or anxiety,"
Yeah.
is it ever as bad
Oh, never is.
or difficult
Nope.
as you imagined it was gonna be in your head and your mind, and that's that negative. There's still things now when there's something that needs to be done, or I've
Right.
identified this, and you can sit and you can spend and you can spin and overanalyze and all this and that. And sometimes, and we've talked about this before, sometimes you just got to start and you just got to get it done. But I would tell you probably 95% of the time, it
Mm.
was never as bad as I
No,
thought.
it
Now,
was
there's
in
some
fact
times when
probably
it's like,
nothing.
that really, really sucked. And oh my God, that was worse than I thought it was going to
Yeah.
be. But you know what? But you still got through it and you still got
You
it
got
done
through it.
and you
And
made a
it's
choice to do it because
yes,
not
exactly.
doing
It's
something,
the choice. It's
not
the choice to stand up and be counted.
exactly.
To
And
stand
not
up and be
making a
counted.
decision
Correct.
is a decision in itself,
In
and
and of
I don't
itself.
ever want and I spent times in my life doing that. Not making a decision. Like you said, putting it aside, that'll wait till and then all of a sudden it didn't get done.
Yeah. And
Once I decided
now it's
I'm gonna
bigger than
do
it
it,
should be.
and you don't know if it's right or wrong, the decision's right or wrong
Yeah.
until you do the damn thing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly. It is it that and that goes back to one of our previous episodes about the fear of failure. I'm not going to step forward and make this decision. What if I fail? Right?
What if?
But which is a low quality question. The
It is.
higher quality question is,
There you
what
go.
if I succeed? Holy
There
crap,
you
then what?
go. Ask the right question. Yeah,
Ask the
because
right
that
question.
is a low quality bad question. What if I fail?
What if I fail? But we are raised that way. We are
Ah,
raised to always be, make sure you get a good grade on that test. And it's not conducive to life in general. That just says you're good at memorizing stuff and regurgitating it. It's funny, very few parents go, okay, here's how you choose what you want to do in life and go after it. Honestly, I have yet to meet a pair of parents that say, this is how we talk to our child. Why? tell, tell your children how to go after the things they want in life. And if you don't know how, that's where you need to start. Fix that first. Fix
yeah,
that
and I'm
first. Show them,
and
give them the example to follow, and then show them how to do it.
yep, and I hope I'm doing my little one a
But,
favor. Not
mhm.
again, not that I have it figured out, but the things that I've learned is what trying to teach them. And again, I'm grateful every day that
You
I
bet.
had her. I've talked about this, that it's the best career I've ever had in my life, being a dad. It's so awesome. But in that, sometimes I get a little bit, I wouldn't say the word is locked up, but I overthink things because I'm like, am I doing right or doing wrong? And then you get stuck in that where if I now at this point let just some of the natural instincts
Yes.
take hold,
Yes. Trust
it
yourself.
actually turns out pretty
It
darn
turns out freaking
darn
awesome.
good.
It turns out
You know
freaking
what I
awesome. It
mean?
really does.
And a lot of that comes with obviously experience and life
Yes.
experiences and that,
Yes.
and that's what we're doing with this is sharing our experiences and our ideas
Yeah.
and hoping, and we're starting to get some feedback from other people on and things that we didn't even think about, and that's the big part is engagement and things of that nature.
Getting a conversation started, right? At the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's and I think from our perspective, the question is how can we help you ask higher quality questions for your
Mhm.
life? What kind of episode, what kind of content would you like us to put out there to help you with that? It what I have discovered in my life is that when my life is dark, it's because of me. When my life is light, it's because of me. You see the
Well, yeah.
commonality there? It has
Uh-huh.
nothing to do almost nothing to do with things that are
Everything in
external
life
to me.
comes back to you.
It does, it
You
really does, and
you
so the
talk
question is,
Yep.
how do we keep you and keep ourselves at that elevated energy level where we're constantly looking for that next awesome thing to follow and do, right? And I find my energy is it's contagious. People that I get around seem to have end up absorbing that energy, and we tend to do great things together as a team. My employees and I love working with my employees because they're awesome people. But that leadership comes from me, right? I'm not somebody they're like, oh, don't call Ramin because it's going to be a pain in the ass. Which is a lot of which is what a lot of leaders think. They think that if they treat their employees well, they're going to have no respect. Exactly the opposite is true. Treat your employees well. In fact, treat them so well, treat them like, to give them everything they need to become amazing at their jobs so that they can actually, if they wanted to, walk out and leave you and then do everything you can to keep them.
Yep, and raise up I've followed, and I still do some John Maxwell, um, and he's big on leadership, and that's his big thing, is don't be
Leadership
afraid
is
to
huge.
support your people and grow them to be leaders that there's a point where they
Right.
can meet you or
Or
exceed
exceed
what
me.
you're doing and
Man,
look at that as a blessing and let
absolutely.
them go on and do that because at the end of the day, you've really done a hell of a service
I've done a
to
hell of a
the
service
world.
to me, to them, to the world.
Because they're gonna
Our
help you with
yeah,
what you're doing and your business with the
yeah.
business you and
Our
all that
clients
stuff,
love it,
but
you
there's a
know.
lot of people that e even parents, you see it with their kids.
Yeah,
They almost like they hold them down or they hold them back,
yeah.
like and it's just
What do you
like,
get out of that? What do you it's
well,
your and the thing is that your fears are your fears. Don't push them onto your children,
yeah. Yep.
right? That's not
Or
fair.
your coworkers or your
Yeah.
employees or just
Or
others,
your
and that's why
coworker or employees. Yeah. And so for me, my and the way I learned this from a book I read that was fabulous. It's called The Servant. And the idea really honestly is that you turn the org chart. This is from an employer employee basis. Turn the org chart upside down. Have one set of customers. They're my employees. They have the ultimate set of customers. So I need to make sure my customer satisfaction is high so that they can make sure their customer satisfaction is even higher. And that can be the same thing with you and your children, right? And then I'm not to say you should collapse yourself into your children. That's a bad idea. A lot of parents do. They become like all about the kids. Dude, don't do that because then you become one dimensional. Become
Mhm.
one dimensional as a human being, and that's not good for you. It's sure as hell is not good for your kids. Your kids should be like, "Oh yeah, my dad does or my mom does, fill in the blank. That's awesome. That's freaking cool." Right? But if you're not doing that, they have nothing to brag about. Give them a reason to brag. But that all comes back down to, what are the questions you ask yourself about your life? Are you the architect of your own joy, or are you the architect of your own misery? It's a choice.
Yep. For
So
sure.
anyway,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I got on this subject matter. We could go on for a while, and if there was whiskey involved, we'd go on for much longer.
Well,
But we,
yeah, there's a topic
yes,
there too. One of these days, maybe we'll do a remote
yeah.
from a
Maybe
bar with the whiskey.
we'll do a Patreon page video with us
No, it was good.
drinking
It was good.
drinking
It's,
bourbon.
short and sweet and good topic, but make sure, yeah,
Yeah, no,
it's what the questions that you ask yourself and make sure that
right,
they're
and
the right ones.
learn to ask yourself better questions, and then teach your children to ask better
Yep.
questions.
Control those questions. Don't let your mind wander and let it
No,
ask you the stupid questions.
man, there are days when,
Control it. And when it does, look right at it. And
yep,
and and there's things you could do. Go right to the
yeah,
damn mirror and say, enough.
enough of this.
I mean, it's a,
But
but it's true. You can,
that's advanced stuff, though, Tommy. The the conscious awareness of your unconscious mind and its behavior is an advanced thing. It's something you have to work towards.
well,
Being
it is,
basic
and I've had to
being
work on
basically
it. And
outside of yourself,
yep,
right?
it's constantly working, but I can tell you this: I'm a lot farther along in that than I was. And the other part to all of this is surrounding yourself. We talked about this with like-minded people, and this
Mm,
podcast is like-minded men, and it's why me and you are together, because we came together for certain things. And
yep.
when I met you in person, and we've hung out multiple times with groups, different parts of the country, driving in the car, talking, and you always
Driving way
came
too
from a
fast.
place, you always came from a place of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And again,
It's
we
just,
don't have it all figured out. And that's why
no,
we were
heck no.
going on these trips and we were doing these groups and
Yeah,
we were doing that because we wanted to know more and learn more. And now we want to help each other
exactly.
along
And
the
you and I
journey.
went on those journeys because we started to ask ourselves the question, is there a better way?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Once you ask the question, is there a better way? There is no going back unless
Right.
you just are so afraid of change. There is no going back. Once you say, is there a better way? Your brain will go, yes, there is.
There you go. That's a good way to end this podcast. And that's the question that
Yes.
every man, when they see this,
Ask yourself,
is there a better
way?
way? There's a good question. And
Yes.
then if you seek, you will find, and you will find all kinds of answers to your question.
And there'll be good answers if you ask.
There will be. Yep. And you'll wake
All
up
right.
every day, or you'll get weekly with your buddy across the street on the other side and be like, I'm doing good. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's some crap that hit this week and weekend, but a good spot, good place. And
Yep. All right, my brother. Thank you so much. As
Right on,
always, what a wonderful time we have together. I appreciate everybody that subscribes to this podcast. Thank you so very much for joining us on this journey. Please like and subscribe and ring the ding dong. Is there a bell? I don't know.
Ring the ding dong.
Ring the ding dong.
I like that. Ring the ding dong.
Ring the
All
ding
right,
dong.
man.
And so that you know when we drop another video. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and we'll chat with you soon. Please
Have a
comment.
wonderful
Let us know
life. Ask the right questions.
ask the right questions. Talk to you guys later.
Later.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.